Om Namo Venkateshaya. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting transit that is happening in the middle of this month of July, which is the Sun moving on to the Cancer sign. Now, this is a sign where already we are seeing that Venus is placed, and therefore Sun and Venus would be together over there, though they would be very apart from each other, which is quite a relief to be frank. And Sun will be staying over there for a brief duration, you can say, and Venus will move out of the sign of Cancer to Leo in July end. And this transit would definitely be characterized by multiple different themes happening already around, and you could already witness the effect and the impact of this potential transit, which is going to happen from 16th of July onwards. One important theme for this transit would be that suddenly there would be a very huge sense of nostalgia that would be inbuilt in all of you. You people are going to remember your old good days. You people are going to crave slight amount of familiarity. It would be all about nostalgia. It would also lead you to recall all those small moments that you feel were very important to you. Some of you might experience a very weird nostalgia altogether, where you are recalling some friends that have been part of your life earlier but are no longer there for you. Many of you will be reevaluating some relationships, feeling detached out of it, and feeling that there is a lack of reciprocity over there, and therefore things really moved on. But one very beautiful thing about this entire transit is that this feeling of nostalgia will be very bittersweet. It will not be making you acrimonious, it will not make you revengeful, it will simply be a memoir for you, and you will be moving down the memory lane, recalling all the small moments together that had happened to you. More importantly, because Venus is also over here along with Sun in the sign of Cancer, Sun is extremely friendly with the ruling lord of Cancer, which is the Moon. But unfortunately, Venus is not as friendly to Moon as much as Sun. And therefore, you would see that there would be some tensions building up around the world over here. One important takeaway from this transit would be a sudden increase in the amount of emotional principles around across the world, you can say. You would see that people will start advocating their past memories very strongly, and they will start relating to those emotions even more further. A very quick example of that would be, let's say, for example, you had shifted or moved away from your country, your hometown, and then suddenly a nostalgia hits you that makes you believe that, yeah, there are some memories about my past in that homeland, in that hometown, that I am recalling, and I would now be extremely proud about them. Which sounds very weird, but it would be more of a spirit which will be invoked within you during this time period, where you will feel that you are suddenly feeling an urge to love your home even further. You will be craving your home environment quite a lot during this time. A lot of you people would be feeling homesick. A lot of you people would be feeling gloomy, melancholic about the moments ago. No matter how toxic your home might be, you would be trying to recreate the same environment around you during this time period, which would be very beautiful. And recreation doesn't mean that you would literally make another home out of it. Always remember that whatever you try to do at the moment would be simply of an action to make sure that you are connected to your past somehow. Let's say, for example, if you suddenly remember that your mother used to scold you for not eating properly, you would start making a principle about yourself that you would be self-imposing eating properly on an everyday basis. If your mother was scolding you for a lack of being self-disciplined, you would suddenly recall that and then feel an urge to make yourself disciplined, and that would be more of a self-realization this time around you. So things like this would be happening very often around you at the moment. More importantly, there would be a sudden increase in patriotism across the world. You would see that people are suddenly becoming very aware about their emotional past. They are going to reconnect the dots which were missing for quite a few years. It is possible that there were some moments that people used to recall long back, and suddenly all of them have resurged. And people would be advocating slight amount of rigidity about their beliefs in that. You would see this also lead to building up of political tension across the world, which has already started in its own way. And people would also be seeing more amount of, let's say, any attacks or adverse weather condition is also something that would be part of this transit. You would see that there is sudden increase in the amount of rains. There would be some other weather issues that would be coming up. There could be potential floodings as well during this time period, and all of this is going to contribute to certainly some amount of loss in terms of lives. And the time period would be as such that nobody would be able to control over it that very well. So this is what is going to happen. The good news is that Sun and Venus would stay apart from each other, even though they would be pressurized by Jupiter and Mars, which are already sitting in the sign of Taurus. Jupiter and Mars already are invoking a lot of past memories, a lot of past issues that were not rectified. In the previous few months, you would have already observed that all of you people have witnessed one important theme around things, is that suddenly the problems which you had identified long back, let's say a few years back, whether it is related to your work or it is related to relationships or it is related to even political tensions you would see across the world, would have suddenly resurfaced back, and now you are confronting all of them. So you are using your past memories to again reignite an energy within inside of you, and that is what the sign of Cancer is all about. And Sun's transiting over here will further strengthen this rigidity about those beliefs, about those very moments, about that very past that has suddenly resurfaced in terms of a different execution, in terms of action of how people are reacting to it. Let's say, for example, if you are an American, you would suddenly become very patriotic about being an American. You would suddenly become very supportive of different principles. You would suddenly remember all the things that really matter to you as an American, and you would now try to entitle yourself into a rigid identity. If you are an Indian, a very similar feeling would suddenly resurface within you. You would suddenly remember all the festivities, all the customs, traditions, culture, everything that you used to identify with your individuality in terms of being an Indian. And that is how things would be resurfacing in its own pace. And more importantly, you would see that you would be using all these nostalgia not to get emotional this time around, because Sun also advocates taking action. Sun also advocates being optimistic. So you would see that now finally you are out of that lethargic loop which had existed a few weeks, especially since July had begun for most of you. And now you are finally getting into action that was, not possible, let's say a week or 2 weeks back. Some of you might also see some new job opportunities coming to your plate with this transit, as Sun and Venus together would be giving a quite a blessing. Many of you would feel very confused about your rewards. What are you supposed to be chasing right now? Because let's not forget, Cancer is also the sign of confusion. Wherever Cancer lies in your birth chart, you would see that there would be some confusion here and there that you deal on a daily basis with. One interesting thing is now emotional control and checks would be applicable to everybody. So now people will be moving towards taking more logical decisions. People will not fall into emotional biases as a trap. And that is something which is really good. And this would be observed across the world. Of course, political tensions, as I mentioned, would remain over here. It might even get a little bit worse as we move towards July. And you would see that Venus will be leaving the sign of Cancer without impacting or interacting with Sun all that much by the end of July. More importantly, at the moment, a lot of you would be confused about the fact whether Venus and Sun are combusting each other as well. Well, to be honest, they are very far apart in terms of degrees. It is almost as if you can think it like that Venus had already entered the sign of Cancer, so it is sitting on a different floor at a different point in time compared to Sun entering the sign of Cancer within the same building. So they would be sharing the entire building, but they would be on different floors with each other, which is a good thing in one way or other, because the lesser they interact with, the chances are things will not get that worse as we are expecting it to be. but definitely one should be very careful about the seasonal changes that would be happening across the world at the moment. As we mentioned, there would be sudden gloominess. You need to take care of your mental health very well at the moment. Do not fall into loop of anxiety. Many a times you would see that recalling about nostalgia is definitely very rejoicing, but at the same time, if you just get lost in the loop of nostalgia, you might feel more anxious, you might feel a little bit uncertain, you might end up resurfacing some regrets about your past, that you could have done in a different way, or you could have reacted in a different fashion. And more importantly, it is important to ignore all such things about the past at the moment, because you need to understand the fact that no matter how much familiarity you are craving, Saturn in Aquarius advocates only one thing, that time will be moving ahead and you need to take action at the right time to capitalize the right opportunity. And that is how this transit is going to feel like at the end of the day. Some of you will be feeling very energetic by it, some of you will be feeling very much patriotic, as I mentioned. But one beautiful thing about this is there would be an emotional understanding that will be reached among everybody in this entire world by the end of this transit, which is another beautiful thing. And the interesting part is whether this emotional understanding would be positive or negative would be a different matter altogether. But one thing is that there would be a closure on this completely. And this closure is something that is important to have, because at the end of the day, closure about toxic behavior or closure about good behavior eventually leads to making choices, leads to making decisions in life, and you would be able to move ahead no matter whatever the case was, without developing any further inertia about this. So rejoice this time period, try to take care of your health, try to indulge into nostalgia as well. Don't completely erase and eliminate it simply because you are feeling it is keeping you back at the moment, and rather try to see the good you can bring out of your nostalgic feelings at the moment. And definitely all the very best to everybody. Thank you.